Tape up your ankles because this is Hotline TV. I'm Quinn McCord.
And I'm Tim Sod. Today on Hotline TV, we're looking at 2010 House race recruiting successes and failures.
Yes, we are, Tim.
Yep.
You know, it's December. The recruiting season is almost over. It's becoming over. Although only one filing deadline is passed in Illinois.
That's right.
But what we want you to tell us is, you know, what are the successes? What are the failures? Is one party doing better than the other? What's going on?
You know, it's almost an embarrassment of riches for Republicans. You know, you could
Wow.
also say a tale of two cities.
Yes.
Of two cycles for Republicans.
Oh.
I think because Republicans have had such an abundance of success recruiting candidates in a ton of different places that they're also getting the flip side of that, which is competitive primaries.
Yeah.
And you look at some, you know, vulnerable freshman incumbents like Parker Griffith or Alan Grayson or Suzanne Cosmas or Walt Minnick, or going down through the list. There are going to be some really big battles in those races to get out of primaries. A lot of these guys are raising some money to get in these races, but whatever money they are going to raise is going to be spent in these bloody primaries, potentially bloody primaries anyway.
Although I assume that was true for Democrats in 06 and 08, and yet they still won the general election.
No, that's true. That's true. But at the end of the day, Democrats are going to be ready for these races. These, especially freshman Democrats that are on Frontline, the DCCC's program, they are going to be ready. Chris Van Hollen, the DCCC chairman, is going to have these guys ready for battle. So Republicans are going to need, sure, the environment's going to be great for Republicans if everything holds up as it is now. But they're going to be behind on cash in a lot of these races. And just look at I look at the playing field and I see, just doing a broad look through, you have about 20 races where Republicans have a clear field right now to their Democratic challenger, whereas more than double that number are where there's going to be a competitive primary, and sort of a in races that we're looking at right now as being competitive. On the flip side, for Democrats who have targeted a couple of Republican incumbents and have done a good job, looking at Charlie Dent, who's a big time target in Pennsylvania. Obama won the seat. He has a Bethlehem mayor running against him, John Callahan. There's Mike Castle's open seat. The former Lieutenant Governor John Carney is running there, and that's it. I mean, the fields are cleared for these guys. They have 14 races that are top targeted races or targeted races for them, where the challengers have a clear field, whereas they have 7 that are contested. So it's the flip of the Republicans. It shows that, and I think these numbers show the overall layout, that Democrats have a much smaller, and they are much more focused on their challenges, where Republicans just have a much bigger field and tons of candidates who are enthused by the environment.
Well, we'll see about that, because you're right, the environment is key. And
Right.
I think, regardless of money, that's important. The candidates matter, but as we saw in 06 and 08, being in the right place at the right time, environment is key.
Yeah, you have Zach Space, who was
And-
a nobody,
yes.
and he's in Congress, and he survived a re-election. And you have Chris Carney. Obviously, the environment and other ethical concerns played a role, but he was a professor, college professor. So definitely, it's definitely the environment.
Well, we'll see if those people can hang on next year. But, Tim, everyone loves talking about the House races, except me. What's so much more interesting, though, are the Senate races. And we actually have one next week, a primary in Massachusetts for the Ted Kennedy seat. But to learn more about that, we're going to throw you to our Springfield, Massachusetts office, where our correspondent Felicia Somez is there. She knows what's happening. There was a debate yesterday, not much happened, but there's another debate coming up tonight. And I think everyone's asking, Felicia, you can tell me about this. Has Martha Coakley already won this? Is it over already? Is there any scenario in which Coakley does not win this primary next week? Felicia, what can you tell us?
Quinn, as of today, there's 1 week remaining in the race to fill the seat of the late Senator Ted Kennedy. And so far, the Democratic primary field is remaining pretty much unchanged from how it was 3 months ago. The State Attorney General, Martha Coakley, remains with a double-digit lead over her nearest competitor, Representative Michael Capuano. And tonight's debate is pretty much going to be the last chance for any of her other competitors to try to change up the game. Capuano and City Year co-founder Alan Casey have been wrapping up a lot of endorsements in the past couple of days. Casey got the endorsement of the Boston Globe, which his other competitor, Stephen Pagliuca, actually tried to buy several months before the race began. So with Capuano getting the Boston Herald's endorsement, will these endorsements really make a big difference in the race? We'll have to see whether anyone engages Martha Coakley tonight. Quinn?
Thank you, Felicia. And now moving from Springfield, Massachusetts to Springfield, Illinois, where there's another hot Senate race going on that's a year away. We go now to our Illinois Senate correspondent, Sean Miller, in his final Hotline TV appearance.
Thanks, Quinn. Yeah, it is hot out here in Illinois, despite the weather. Over the Thanksgiving week, there was some major developments in the race. Alexei Giannoulias, the front-runner, treasurer of Illinois, he released his tax records for the last 4 years, and it was revealed that he'd received a portion of a $70 million payout from Broadway Bank, his family-owned bank. Now, the issue here is one that it's a large amount of money in general, but he said he only received a relatively small portion of it, $2.5 million, of which $1 million went to go to taxes. But one of his major opponents, David Hoffman, the former Inspector General of Chicago, came out and said, seized on a quote that Giannoulias had given to the Crane Chicago Business, where he said it was a minimal amount that he'd received, and David Hoffman used that term "minimal amount" in a web ad that he produced to try to portray Giannoulias as out of touch. I think what we're seeing here is really going to be the issue of whether or not this family-run bank becomes a liability for the treasurer. Although with only 2 months left in the primary, time is an issue.
Thank you, Sean. That was a hot update.
And we are just, unfortunately, about out of time.
Wrong, Tim. We are out of time. Until next time, we'll see you later on Hotline TV.